Okay, so I'm predicting the Atlanta Falcons record prediction. So looking at the roster definitely does not look bad. The offense looks really good. They have a decent offensive line with guys like Lindstrom. Their skill position players are really good with Bijan, Drake London, Kyle Pitts. I am worried about their quarterback situation. I'm not sure how Kirk Cousins is going to do after tearing an Achilles. And the Falcons' defense looks alright-ish. I'm still worried about their defensive line, their linebackers, but their secondary looks good with Bates and Terrell. I'm just really worried about Raheem Morris. He has had head coaching gigs in the past and didn't do exactly that great. So your first game versus the Steelers. I think Steelers are not the greatest team right now, especially on offense. Steelers are still trying to figure out their quarterback and they lack playmakers. And while the Steelers defense is very good, I feel like a veteran quarterback like Kirk Cousins will be able to solve that Pittsburgh defense. And I think the Falcons have a decent defense, so I'm taking the Falcons here. Then you have them versus the Eagles on Monday night. I just don't think the Falcons are better than the Eagles. I think the Eagles, Jalen Hurts will be too much for that front seven of the Falcons to stop. I think that Eagles improved a lot, so I'm going to take the Eagles here, especially with home field advantage. Then week three versus the Chiefs. Chiefs are the defending Super Bowl champs. I think that Chiefs defense is good enough to shut down Bijan, good enough to cause problems for Kirk Cousins. And I think that Chiefs offense will get the job done, especially Isaiah Pacheco. So I'm taking the Chiefs here. Then you have them versus the Saints. I'm not a huge fan of the Saints at all. I think the Falcons. I think their offense does well versus that Saints defense, and that Saints offense I don't trust at all. So I'm taking the um, Falcons here. Then you have Week 5 versus the Buccaneers. It's a Thursday nighter. Falcons have a big home field advantage on a short week. The Buccaneers do have a very, very good offense, but I don't trust that Bucks defense at all. And I think the Falcons are more well-rounded. So I'm taking the Falcons here. Then you have them versus the Panthers. Panthers, they do play the Falcons really tough. I think one of the Falcons' two wins last year was against the Falcons. However, this is early in the season. The Falcons have a new head coach. They have a lot of new pieces. I think the Falcons have just a lot more experience. So I'm taking the Falcons here, especially earlier in the season. And you have them versus the Seahawks. Similar to the Buccaneers, the Seahawks I think have a potentially very good offense, but I don't trust that um, Seahawks defense, especially with the rookie head coach. So I'm taking the Falcons here, especially with home field advantage. Then you have them versus the Buccaneers. I don't see the Buccaneers getting swept. The Falcons sweeping the Buccaneers. I think the Buccaneers are a good enough team to split with the Falcons. So I'm taking the Bucks here. Then you have them versus the Cowboys. Cowboys. I think that Cowboys passing game will be too much for the Panthers. I know the Falcons. I know that Falcons secondary is kind of their strength. But the Cowboys have a really good offense in their defense. I think that pass rush will be too much for Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins does not do well under pressure, so I'm taking the Cowboys here. Week 10 versus the Saints. Um, I don't see the Falcons sweeping the Saints either. I think the Saints, even though they don't have the best offense, their offense will have their moments occasionally, and their Saints defense I think is too good. So I'm taking the Saints here. Then you have them versus the Broncos. Um, I'm not a huge fan of the Broncos, but Sean Payton's scheme I think can give that Falcons defense some trouble. And Broncos have big home field advantage, and I just don't really trust the. This is a trap game for the Falcons. I think Falcons are one of those teams that fall into a trap game, so I'm taking the Falcons here. Then you have them versus the Chargers. I don't like the Chargers at all. I don't like the Chargers defense. I know people have hope for that Chargers defense, but I don't like the Chargers defense. I think Falcons, Bijan, will easily go right to that Chargers defense, and I don't trust that Chargers offense. I don't think the Chargers have enough firepower to keep up with the Falcons. So I'm taking the Falcons here. And then you have them versus the Vikings. I'm not a fan of the Vikings. I think Kirk Cousins, being an experienced quarterback, will be able to handle that Brian Flores blitz. And I think that Falcons defense will be able to handle JJ McCarthy. I don't like JJ McCarthy. I'm going to take the Falcons here. Then you have them versus the Raiders. I like the Raiders defense a lot. I think they can, with Antonio Pierce, I think they can cause big problems for that Falcons offense. I think with Gardner Minshew or Eddie Connell starting, I think they will do just enough to beat the Falcons, especially with big home field advantage. So I'm taking the Raiders here. Then you have them versus the Giants, I'm not low on the Giants, but the Giants, they just aren't as talented. I think the Giants defense will be fine, not great, but not good enough to carry the team, and I don't think that Giants offense will do anything, so I'm taking the Falcons here. And you have them versus the Commanders. I do like the Commanders. I do think they have an interesting team, especially with Jaden Daniels. I just can't pick them over the Falcons right now. Falcons are just way more talented. They have the better quarterback, so I'm taking the Falcons. Then you have them versus the Panthers. I think this is one of those games where the Panthers can play spoiler. Falcons will most likely need this game either for the divisional win or the um, for the playoffs. And I think the Panthers are going to play spoiler and beat the Falcons here. So ending at the Falcons going 9-8, 3-2 in division, 6-3 at home, and 3-5 away.